Hello, my name is Bhaskar Sirohi. I'm Director for Sales Engineering at Druva. I'm based out of Singapore. My role at Druva is to work with Druva customers, understand their problems with their current data protection solutions, and advise them around what can Druva help them with their data protection needs. That's a great question. Since you mentioned pandemic here, so we have to look what has actually changed during the pandemic and what will change after the pandemic. So one of the things which has happened during this time is that a lot of employees have gone remote, right? So no longer you're just sitting in one location and managing the data, the policies, and everything, right? Which also brings a lot of stress on IT organizations because now they have to manage security, they have to manage data protection for all these remote workloads or users and support them from productivity perspective. So what has changed and what are customers looking for? Number one is they want to reduce the cost and complexity of their data protection solution because the moment you go remote, your cost increases exponentially because it's not just about the network which can support it. It is also about whether that infrastructure can go and support all these remote employees. Second is a lot of organizations during the pandemic, they thought it's a good idea to accelerate their cloud adoption, their cloud project itself. Well, it's very easy to move your primary workloads, re-architect them, move to cloud, but it becomes very difficult to protect them in the cloud if your main data protection strategy was based on on-premises itself. And third, what we have seen is since there is a lot of adoption of remote workforce, there have been increased risk of cybersecurity, right? And so the organizations are looking for all these three pillars. Number one is reduce the cost, acceleration to cloud, and to handle all the cybersecurity events which are happening around us. We all hear ransomware stories wherein a company has to pay a ransom because some device had the ransomware come in and then it spread into the customer's organization itself. So how do you respond to these events have become very critical for our customers. So if you look at the data growth itself, right, how employees are number one remote, you have started adopting cloud. One of the things which is most challenging is that you have to manage all this data, which is not in one place, and it is very unpredictable growth as well, right? Today, you cannot say that one business unit cannot generate data. They will generate data, and data is the new oil, as we say, right? And all these workloads coming to the organizations, which are either distributed or they are running in the cloud, right? So your complex vendor management process, which you had with multiple solutions and hardware and network, and this creates all these challenges wherein you're not able to comprehend with the complexity of your own solution which you have designed. So if it was designed for on-premises, the moment you move to cloud, you have no mechanism of using that on-premises data center product to protect your data which is in cloud, right? So your lack of strategy around how do you govern this data and how do you protect this data around cybersecurity events like ransomware, right? Now you might think your data center is more protected than cloud, but it could be the other way around, right? So all these have negative consequences for customers, right? The entire complexity, complex structure which you have built and the complexity around it, managing, it has an increased TCO and unpredictable cost, right? So if I go and create another copy of my data, does it go and increase my cost? How do I control my cost, right? That is very important, right? It also, what it does is if you have a very complex underlying architecture which you have been using on premises, it slows down your entire cloud migration story. So if you feel like you can re-architect the solution be in cloud, but your existing architecture slows it down, that's a negative consequence which we see enterprises are experiencing today. And with all this, when you say that, hey, I have this on-premises data center and I have this on-premises data protection strategy, what if you lose data? What if you're not compliant? What if there is a downtime because of cybersecurity event? How are you gonna go and uh, build a business-oriented, serving something to your business and be more predictable around it. That's a great question. So I'm going to talk about two things here. Number one is I'm going to talk about required capabilities, right? Because we all are talking about a data protection solution which is modern. So how do we define a modern data protection solution built in the cloud, which is in the cloud itself? Number one, it should be on demand and should be able to scale without requiring you to make capital investment in your hardware or infrastructure on premises itself, right? Secondly, it should be predictable cost, which means that if I can predict that my business is going to grow by X, I should be able to predict that my data protection cost is going to not increase by X plus X or X squared, right? It should be very predictable that I should not get a shock by receiving a bill which I was not expecting, right? So it's all about cost and efficiency altogether, right? Other thing which we have learned from organizations is that they do not look at data protection for certain applications in isolation. So they are looking for a very unified experience. They are not looking to manage multiple data protection solutions. They want to consolidate. They want to make sure it's a unified solution. And not the least, but very important point, that they are also looking at security and isolation and data availability and data privacy. And they're also looking for data localization, because all the new governance functionalities which are coming out, and new compliance which are coming out. For example, in Europe, everyone have to be compliant with GDPR. If you'll take an example of Singapore, for example, you have to follow something known as PDP8, right? So you have to be compliant with all these new compliances which are coming out, and then make sure you have one single solution. Now, if you have a very complex solution which is hosted at multiple locations and you not have a single pane of glass to maintain them, you will not be able to go and reduce your cost or not be able to be compliant with this new strategies which are coming out from a business perspective. Now, from a use case perspective, what do customers look like? Because what I spoke was the required capabilities. And we talk about use cases, right? A lot of organizations, they are actually converging their backup and disaster recovery requirements. So DR is no longer a standalone requirement. What they are saying is that I have a budget, and that budget is not, I'm not calling it backup, I'm going to call it disaster recovery, because that clearly aligns with my business continuity requirement. So it's not just backup, it is disaster recovery in today's world. Cloud backup is another use case which have come a lot, because the workloads have moved to cloud, and your on-premises data protection strategy does not span to cloud automatically. It's very difficult to do it that way. Now, once the data has been backed up, right, or is available for disaster recovery, that's where the additional use cases come out. Like, for example, they would like to see that data being used for compliance purposes, governance purposes, right? They would like to use that data to be used for ransomware recovery, which means that they want the ransomware recovery to happen in case a ransomware attack happens, and they want to do it very reliably. And cloud can come into the picture, because cloud is separated from your network, and you have made those policies in a way that a ransomware attack does not impact your airtight backup copies which are existing in the cloud itself, right? So these are use cases which see with the organization. So your typical backup, which used to happen 15 years ago, has actually taken a different altogether path, wherein use cases are very different. And it's not just a data graveyard wherein you just back up the data and it does no other function for your business any longer. Nowadays, the use cases are much more, wherein people would like to use that data for their governance requirement, their other projects which they would like to use here. Great question. I'll say some of the, you can say, benefits are very obvious, right? Number one, being a SaaS platform, we can scale up and scale down, right? We're based on a very microservice-based architecture, which means that I can make my service available to you very quickly and meet your business requirement. So I'll give you an example here. Let's say if you go and buy hardware, right? It's going to take some time. With Druva, you just call us within 5 minutes, we can make those services available to you. Also, it's efficiency model from a perspective that what we are doing over here is using these microservices and auto scaling. We make resources available when they're actually required, right? So let's say Monday morning you have a lot of backups to do. We can auto scale it, and if Saturday night or Friday night, let's say you don't have backups to do, we can scale them down and we pass on these cost benefits to you as a customer altogether, right? Other benefits is definitely the zero trust security architecture which Druva has built, which has been vetted by third-party organizations. Like we are FedRAMP certified, we do FIPS 140 by 2, which is an encryption scheme, which is very important for regulated industries, and they want to see that the security is top-notch, right? And finally, we spoke about the flexibility of going scalability. Can we go up, down? Can we make sure that suddenly, if you have a project and you want to push another 100 terabyte or a petabyte of data, can we take that workload? And it benefits back to the customer because they are not reserving anything with us. What they are doing is they're consuming as the workload or as the data comes to Druva itself. It also brings out another topic is the wastage itself, because a lot of time when we buy hardware on premises, we do not use it to the utmost capacity itself. What we do is we start with 30%, we gradually go to 40, 50, 60, and to the end of the life of that hardware, we do not use more than 70% of it. Guess what? With Druva, that's not the case. We are purely consumption based, which means that if you're using certain amount of storage today, that's what you pay for. If you do not use it, there's no capacity waste altogether, right? A couple of more points here. What customers get as a benefit of a SaaS experience is a unified customer experience, the single console for all your data workloads. So you do not have to manage multiple products. There's one single console which gives you a bird's eye view of where your data is growing. It can give you trends. It can give you insights. For example, if I have a server which has data sitting on a very costly NAS storage, and that data has not changed in last 2 years, why am I keeping that data on that costly primary storage itself? I can move that data to a low cost storage, and that insight itself can start saving you money altogether. So having that experience is very important for our customers. And finally, the security. Can I use the SaaS solution to meet my security requirements? And because the latest trends around ransomware makes you think like, if the ransomware hits my network and all my data is on premises, how do I protect it, right? Guess what? With Druva, since the data is in cloud, it is air gap, it gives you that mechanism wherein the ransomware cannot go and hit your cloud copy itself. It gives you that confidence that I can go and recover this data and meet my compliance requirements, because all these organizations who are handling the customer data, they are supposed to meet the compliance wherein they need to have run books to recover the data from any cybersecurity event. So if you're not able to do that, then you're not compliant, and that adds a risk to your business itself. It's very simple. We because we are purely cloud-based, we offer free trials, so we don't ship any hardware. That's the beauty of the solution. You can get in touch with us through our free trial page. That's one way to do it. If you're very interested in directly talking to us, you can go to our website, which is druva.com, and there are numbers listed. You can call us anytime. And if you're interested in looking on how much money am I going to save, we have online TCO calculators which can help you as well. Just to give you an idea, like when we talk about Druva, Druva has been doing about 2 billion backups today. So that will give you an idea about the scale itself, and it also gives you an idea in terms of like what can we handle in the cloud. It's a very well-known service. We have over 4,000 enterprise customers. So one thing is that we are only in enterprise space, and we are available on AWS. So which means that we are available on all global regions. So if you're a customer who is thinking like, Druva, can they support me in Australia? Absolutely. We can support you in Australia, Singapore, Japan, India, pretty much Europe, North America, South America, any location you want, we can support you. Reach out to us. You can go to our website and check us out.